Jim Trotter thinks he's he's sacrificing maybe his current job, which is with The Athletic and the New York Times as a columnist. He's writing a column about Nick Bosa and the fact that he hasn't been disciplined by the NFL for wearing the MAGA hat post-game when he busted in and crashed the party that was the post-game interview with Brock Purdy on Sunday Night Football. Of course, it was edited out briefly by NBC and then deleted and posted again. But this is, and we discussed this, Chad, on the show yesterday about how Bosa could face penalty from the NFL based on policies in place that is agreed upon through the collective bargaining agreement about certain messages, slogans. It can be certainly political. It could also just be something that you're passionate about for a nonprofit. You have to get that cleared through the league on game days at the stadium, during warm-ups. It can post-game. You're allowed to talk about in a presser whatever you want, but you can't display this while in uniform or representing the team or the league on game day at the stadium. The ultimate fine could be up to $11,000 and some change. Normally, those fines are announced on Fridays because that's when the notices are handed out. Right after practice, they're on the locker, and you'll find out. But Jim Trotter pins his opinion that, who's, by the way, he's used to work for the NFL media, and he's suing the league for discrimination, says that, well, the league's not doing anything because Bosa's white. And then goes on to say that the actual column that was published is a watered-down version of what he really wanted to say, but he would have gone against the journalistic standards of, at least that's what he was told, by The Athletic and the New York Times, had they just published exactly what was written and turned in. Chad, the thing is, we don't know if the NFL has punished him, Bosa, yet, because, again, they have the authority to do so. And here's the columnist Jim Trotter saying, hey, they punished Kaepernick. He's been blackballed, but Bosa can do this for 2 seconds on NBC, and nothing's going to come of it through the NFL because he's white. Come on.
Yeah, an excerpt from his column reads the following. Failure to take some sort of action would suggest the presence of a double standard and raise the question of whether the league is more comfortable with a white player using its national spotlight to endorse a presidential candidate than it is with black players demonstrating against systemic racism. And then, as you said, Hutton, the tweet that he posts on X, full disclosure, this is a watered-down version. Then he corrects himself because at first he says it's a violation of the New York Times standards, and then says, correction, it's a violation of the journalistic standards of The Athletic and not the standards of the New York Times. The perpetually aggrieved market must be a hot one because that is where Jim Trotter lives. I mean, this guy is never happy. This guy is always upset. He's slighted about something. He is writing about someone who's been slighted for something, usually racism, even when racism isn't really involved. And to that, I just think, boy, it must pay well. It must pay better than just being someone who covers the NFL. Adam Schefter would probably disagree with that. But right. I guess he's doing well doing this because it's his sole job right now that I see is just to take any issue and write about it like you wholeheartedly believe something is racist or about to be racist. In this case, we're speculating about the potential for racism. If the league doesn't act, if they don't do it, they're going to show their racism once again. I don't know. People profit in this. I don't know who really reads Jim Trotter and thinks, man, he's really opening up my mind, and I really like what this guy has to say on issues of race and everything else. I just don't get it.
Chad,
because it's just stupid when you look at what the league does publicly, right? Slogans on helmets, in the end zone, everything else. That's just not what they're going for.
Anything approved by the league is allowed. The rule is clear when it comes to political messaging. So, tongue-in-cheek made fun of the Rule 5, Section 4, Article 8. It's clear that they can discipline players for doing this. They don't have to necessarily, but the fine could be a little over $11,000 for Bosa. Okay. The fact that they didn't do it the very next day is apparently Jim Trotter's argument for why it's, somehow discrimination. Come on, man. And here's the thing, Chad. The only way we mention Jim Trotter's name is when he writes something like this, right?
Yeah, and
or ask
it's also
Goodell something.
I think it's all he writes.
But it's like Anscaped.
I think he's a sports race columnist.
Anscaped.
Right?
Is it Anscaped? That's because it's
Anscaped.
Anscaped. It's like any of those columnists there. It's the same thing. You have to jump to conclusions immediately, and accuse a league or a team or a person of being one way and not the other. Anscaped, one of the columnists there, was immediately jumping with Harrison Butker, jumping and demanding that the Chiefs and the league come out and denounce anything that Butker was saying in his speech. Come on, that's the only way we mention these sites or these columnists' names is when they do something like this. That's when you say who reads it. This is when they read it.
I just went through and read Jim Trotter's latest column.
I'd love to read the actual full column that he sent in, by the way, that he claims he sent in.
And just reading his latest columns, he did write something on Deshaun Watson's injury. Is it the latest chapter in an awful story? He wrote about the WNBA and Kathy Engelbert facing credibility issues regarding player harassment, which we talked about. One thing out of the ordinary, he wrote a column about Tennessee's talent fee at football games, not being surprising. In business, you charge what people will pay, is what he wrote. So
he's a long-time
hats
football
off.
writer.
He wrote something that's not about race. Yeah. So good job. And that was recent. I'll admit when I'm wrong. He's got one column out of his last 15 that's not just overtly about white people being bad. That's a good thing.
And this is,
got to give credit where credit's due, Hudden.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, credit Jim Trotter.
Right.
But
good job.
Keep in mind, this is not the league saying you can't do anything political. The league allows coaches, players to discuss politics if they want to during press conferences or media availability. You can discuss it, but they don't want it displayed whenever it's game day and it's on the field. That's what this is.
I think the reasonable take here is to not get aggrieved about every little thing and not get so upset about it. I don't care if NBC took the Bosa thing off of their YouTube show or edited it out. I really don't. It's not going to affect my day-to-day life. It's not something I'm going to be upset about. I think what people, the reasonable response to all this stuff is just make it an even rule. If it's a rule about this, I would say this about Bosa.
It is.
If they have fined someone in the past for wearing non-NFL issued clothing.
They did. Well, they did this year. George Pickens had the eye black.
Yeah. Was it political, though?
No, but it was not. It was a message.
Right.
It's pretty standard.
Correct.
Yeah.
I get all that. I'm just saying this is how we avoid this bickering constantly.
Right.
On both sides. If someone put vote Kamala on their eye black, okay, they need to get fined. And then if Bosa does this, he needs to get fined. But the problem we continue to find ourselves in is too many people, even if the vote Kamala person got fined by the NFL, they would find a way to make it, everybody's out to get us, the league's out to get us, if they did the same thing to Bosa. Just do it the same throughout. That's all I'm asking.
Well, and
if there's a rule, apply it the same way to everyone. If you can't do that on game day or whatever, then just do the rule the same way. If this is a rule, fine him. I don't care.
It is a rule, but it also
it's their
in the rule.
discretion.
Yes, they have the ability to if they so choose.
But
okay.
You get where I'm going. Either fine him and fine everybody, or don't fine him and don't fine everybody.
Totally agree.
When it comes to stuff like this,
yes, but the league will fine you for practically anything. Yeah, we're not having your socks pulled up all the way above your knee and showing your kneecap instead of having the pants that go I want to call it stockings. Not what would you call that? The dry fit
The dry fit.
Yeah, the pants or whatever they wear.
Yeah.
Like you have to
It's
have
leggings.
a standard.
They're almost like leggings.
Yeah, whatever it is. You have to have the standard game day apparel on. They have people down there like taking notes and finding people. Blaine Bishop, former Titan safety, is in charge of doing that for the league here in Nashville on game day for both teams.
When some player photobombs a post-game interview with Vote Kamala to protect women's reproductive rights, don't find them if you don't find Bosa. If you find Bosa, find that person. It's as simple as that.
And here's the other part of it.
Go right down the middle, and if it's a violation for one person, it's a violation for another, or no one gets fined. I don't care.
Here's the other part of it. It's an opportunity for Trotter to put this out there in the 24-hour news cycle and keep this going until the next game day, because how quickly we all just totally put in the back burner with the story about Bosa and NBC and the editing, how they did this to C.J. Stroud post-game. And that's not even mentioned as part of the whole process, the storyline of what we've seen in the past, and it's doing it again. Again, like this will be and go away and evaporate quickly too.
Yeah,
and
the Stroud thing's a different story.
But it's the editing.
It's about faith. But what I would say to that is, okay, and I know that it's not. Everybody wants just strong opinion on everything all the time, which isn't always the case. You don't have to get upset about every little thing.
That's right.
Because let me just give you a small example of this. For years, Hutton and I hosted a radio show since 2012 together. For years, we would take calls on this radio show. People would call in passionately saying, just stick to sports. Stick to sports. Keep politics out of it. Keep social issues out of it. Keep all this out of it. Talk to sports. People would get angry if we talked about a television show at times.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's individual listener
complaint.
From person to person. I just want to hear about the Tennessee Titans or the Tennessee Vols or the Vanderbilt Commodores or the Memphis Grizzlies or whatever on our local show. They got so pissed off if you didn't stick to sports. And the same people screaming, stick to sports, are applauding Bosa putting a MAGA hat on and photobombing NBC. And then they're saying, oh, look, they're editing out that. This is what you wanted edited out. You called my show for years saying, stop talking about this. This is political. I don't like it. That's all NBC did. All NBC Sports did was say, we want to stick to the 49ers-Cowboys game. So we edited out this guy wearing the hat and coming in but no, people got so mad and they got so much in their feelings they had to send all this stuff on social media. So then they put it back out there with it. What is it changing? Mm-hmm. What is any of this changing?
Nothing.
Is this going to change how someone votes on Tuesday? Is it going to change all the people who have already voted like me? Going to change their mind on it? No. It's much ado about nothing. So if you are going to abide by the stick to sports mantra while you're watching your sports, I hear it from so many. I go to the NFL as an escape. 2016, I go to the NFL as an escape from the divisiveness in the country and politics and everything else, and I don't need to see people kneeling on the sideline. Great. I agree with you, by the way, on that. Then feel the same way about this. I just want my football on Sundays. Is that too much to ask? Well, NBC's giving you what you asked for. So applaud them. Don't get mad.
Yeah. He's, the $11,000 fine. I mean, Bosa made more running off the field after he did this. He's averaging $34 million per season.
You don't always have to get so upset.
It's fine. Yeah.
Trust me, from someone who gets upset a lot, you don't always have to be upset. You got to pick your spots.
That's right. And those same people continue to listen, even though we
you
had
hope,
primary complaints.
You hope. They listen, they watch. And the people on our old radio show, they would continue to listen. Hutton, I tell my assistant coaches when I'm coaching softball that want me to protest or to go after the umpires on every bad call, I tell them this. You got to pick your spots. If I go off on this call that's bang, bang in the first inning,
you're right.
We're going to get on the wrong side of the umps early in the game. I will pick my spot to go challenge or talk to them. But if I do it over everything, then you're just the guy that's crying wolf all the time. But if you do it in your special spots where it's a really bad call, they start to listen to you more. So if you're screaming about this and everything, then people are going to stop listening to you.
Chad,
But they'll never stop listening to us because we're too damn good at this.
That's right. You mentioned the stick to sports. President Trump is going to stick to the campaign instead of going to the weekend's biggest game, Penn State and Ohio State. And what is the state to campaign in Pennsylvania? His current itinerary doesn't have him attending the game. So don't you agree? If you're like in charge of game day operations at Penn State, isn't there just a collective sigh of relief?
Oh, absolutely.
And it's all the background of planning and the security and all the checklist of what is mandated when a former president or president is on your property, your camp. Man, this tones it down just a notch for everybody involved. But this would have been the second game that Trump would have attended because he did this against Georgia and Bama in Tuscaloosa, where Clay had the interview.
You're thrilled. If you're going to the game, you're thrilled.
Yeah.
That he's not going to be there. The ease of getting around campus and getting in the stadium is going to be so much better on you. And combine that with it being a big noon kickoff on Fox. It's not like you have all day and all afternoon to get in the stadium early or make your plans.
Yeah, you're right.
This is an 11 a.m. Central, 12 p.m. Eastern. People are going to tailgate for a little while and get in the game quickly.
It's not a night kickoff.
For kickoff, right? People are going to be rushing in, and if they're held up by Secret Service and all of that, it becomes a huge thing.
Yeah. It's a huge game. Ohio State, Penn State. Huge game for the coaches, too. We'll get into this more with Clay.
Do you think Trump wins some voters in a swing state because he decided not to go? They're going to say, thank you for saving me the time to get through the concourse and get to my seat.
I mean, he's got time to change the itinerary.
Someone's going to say, I've been a Kamala guy for a long time, but because you did that and saved me some time, I think I'm going to vote Trump now. Yeah. You've completely changed my mind.
And who knows how long he would actually have to go to the game, because he was in and out because they moved the pregame interview to halftime. Clay told us the whole story. I'm looking at this going, man, now it's just about the game.
Maybe Tony Hinchcliffe can go instead and make jokes about Puerto Rico from the suite. That tends to go over.
And then they can ask President Biden again about what he really meant to say on the transcript.
I'd like to see, like the 8 Mile, they had the rap battle. I'd like to see a roast between Biden and Hinchcliffe back and forth right now. I think that could be pay-per-view. What would you rather watch?
Garbage.
Hinchcliffe versus Biden head-to-head in a roast battle from a suite at the game or the game itself? I don't know. We got to ask Stick to Sports guy. I'm sure they would say the game, but I think that would be pretty entertaining too.
Will Howard, he is stoked to play in this game. Here's why.
I'm stoked. It's going to be a homecoming for me. I grew up a Penn State fan. I wanted to go there my whole life. They didn't think I was good enough. But I guess we'll see next week if I was.
I love this. I love small storylines like this. It goes back to we've seen this in the Ohio State-Michigan matchup, where a player. We see this in Tennessee-Bama or Auburn and Alabama, right? Like, was it Rashaan Evans who's from Auburn but went to Alabama?
Was he the guy that went back and forth on his commitment?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. But from the actual town.
Was it? Yes. There was one guy, though, remember, he did it like 2 or 3 times.
Yes.
Reuben Owens?
It may have been Reuben Foster.
Reuben Foster, maybe?
It may have been.
We'll figure that out.
It was a really good player.
Yeah.
I love just the small detail storylines like this. Now, can he actually go in and back it up?
I hate it when you're the team. Like, if you're Penn State in this situation, and you're a fan of Penn State, this is one of my least favorite storylines
for the opponent.
Well, for you, because you're always you're dreading the, oh gosh, this guy's going to come back to haunt. I remember Randall Cobb,
like pissed off for greatness.
Randall Cobb at Kentucky would do great things against Tennessee back in the day, and I hated the story.
For being overlooked.
Here's the guy 10 miles down the road at Alcoa. Tennessee didn't want him, or they wanted him to play, and he goes on to be a quarterback and receiver and this threat at Kentucky. And, boy, he's out for vengeance.
Joey Kent.
When he plays the hometown team because he wasn't recruited by them.
Yes.
And I'm thinking.
It's sports.
it's warfare when it comes to that, right? You're doing anything mentally you can to get an edge. I understand all of it. If you're a fan of Penn State, you hate this storyline because I'm sure we could go back and look at Will Howard. He's probably like a 2 or 3 star prospect.
Well,
and you're saying,
and keep in mind he didn't originally go to.
Bro, you went to
Ohio
K-State for a reason as a Penn State fan because no one of our caliber was recruiting you. Great job on your career, but then when that comes back to haunt, and he's got a shot with a great roster against you,
here's why
I would just hate this if I'm a Penn State fan. Love it if I'm Ohio State. Hate it if I'm Penn State.
But it's not. So let's go to some of the other quarterbacks that have been there compared to Aller. That's why you could hate it a lot more if they had some of the previous QBs.
Yeah.
Right? Now you have the superior quarterback.
Well, and it's not like it doesn't happen to Ohio State or anyone at a big school like that with a big following.
Yeah.
How many Ohio kids were passed over by Ohio State that went somewhere else in the Big Ten that did good things that came back against them? I'm going to show these Buckeyes a thing or two. I was in Columbus at my 8th birthday to watch a game, and now I'm going to – that's how you feel when you're the one not picked.
Yep.
Get picked last for dodgeball in 4th grade, and you don't feel good about it.
And then
if you're Will Howard, you don't get picked by your favorite school, and you get picked by another one, you're going to feel bad about it.
And if he balls out and James Franklin loses another game, here he is in high school.
3-star. He was the 13th ranked pro-style quarterback, but a 3-star.
Weighed 210? That can't be right. In high school?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, he's a big guy.
I know he's 6'3", but I mean, how much did you weigh in high school?
I weighed at my peak, about 190, I would say.
You're 6'3", right?
Yeah.
That guy doesn't look 20 pounds heavier than you. I'm just saying, in high school.
Oh, in high school.
Well, I've seen you play a little basketball in high school.
I don't know. I was pretty skinny at 6'3" in high school, too. So I think that tracks for young Will Howard.
All right. Class of 2020.
We need to get a list of his offers. I want to see who else. Like, who besides Kansas State offered him?
Tyler could pull that up.
Where he wasn't wanted by the home state.
Howard's offers.
State school.
Yeah, it's one thing to say, hey, I want to go here. It's another thing to have all the offers.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's also hilarious because it's not like Ohio State was after him in high school either.
Well, you know who was there? It would have been Will Levis was there.
Well, and Penn State wasn't even after him. They just let him go quietly.
I know that, but I'm saying that year, he left for Kentucky. So I just like looking.
Well, you see, the point is,
I know, yeah,
it's not like Ohio State was knocking down his door. He went to Kansas State,
right.
But now he's at Ohio State and everything's fine because they wanted him when he was at Kansas State. Well, here
we go. Here are his offers.
Yeah, Bowling Green, Cincinnati, Harvard, Kansas, and Kansas State. Boy, I'm so upset that Penn State didn't offer me. I wonder why they didn't offer you with that just
Look at the
dynamite list of
Kansas
offers.
Schools are all in on this.
Yeah,
Kansas
knows how to find the Sunflower State knows how to attract talent, Hutton.
Yeah, they do.
They're big in Downingtown, PA. They've got little birdies everywhere telling about the prospects.
They do.
In that area. They know how to go find a player.
Will Levis was on the bench.
Unlike big bad Penn State, who couldn't even find a guy right down the road.
Will Levis was on the bench that same year. So was Anthony Richardson, who
they basically stay on the bench his entire career at Florida, off and on.
And he's back to the bench now in the pros. He's got to sit and watch, get some rest. Get your breath back.
What was it Butch Jones used to say? Mental reps?
Mental reps.
Now's his time to get mental reps.
Now, from the perspective of...
Needs to get some sprints in also for conditioning.
See, I don't think he's that out of... I just don't buy that. Could he be tired? Sure. Players get tired in the middle of games, but you don't tap out. I think the fact that he ends up 10 for 32, it plays a factor in how easy it is for him to tap out, which is that is a huge red flag. Massive.
Either way, there is a mental toughness issue.
No doubt.
Whether it's the physical toughness or the mental toughness of wanting to check out because you're playing poorly.
And he's
a couple plays.
He's already been hurt again this year, right? He came back. He's like, you can point to that more so than you could being out of breath, needing to catch your breath. You're just winded. But Chad, you found some quotes from.
That's one of my favorite.
You were watching quotes and video in the locker room.
Trenches podcast, I think, is what it is. Zaire Franklin, Colts linebacker.
Yep.
went on with a group of guys. He was asked about Anthony Richardson checking himself out of the game because he was tired, and here's what Zaire Franklin had to say.
But the young boy, I mean, let me just say this, bro. We were standing right there actually watching, and I seen it now. He did, like I said, he did throw the I'm here to bump for young boy, let me just say that. But he did throw a big-ass D lineman off his back. I mean, he do that all the time. Like, you get what I'm saying? Try to get up out of the tackle, whatever. Saw him tap, you feel me? I thought, something was going on, I guess where I'm at with it is just, he said, I ain't gonna lie, I was tired. Lie. Lie. Please. He said, help me. Lie. Like you stole something, you hear me? Bad
Did
joke.
you see them do that?
No. You feel me? Lie. Don't, you hear me? Now, this is the dead honest truth, because I honestly, I appreciate you because it was respectful. Everybody, yo, Big Z, I need to hear your real thoughts on young boy. Now, let me just say this. The truth of the matter is I haven't even really had a chance to talk to Anthony about the situation, so that's first and foremost. But that being said, bad John, you can't say that to the media. Like, you can't go out and tell y'all anything, because I'm not gonna make it a media thing, but it's just not the response that you could give as a leader on a team, like after a situation. It's just not how you want to go about it.
Not the response that you give as the leader on a team, and also not what you do as the leader on a team.
No, you don't do it.
And that's what Zaire Franklin is talking about.
And that's what Ryan Kelly, one of the captains, said too.
It's not just for the media too, Hutton, or for the public. I think Zaire Franklin is speaking as someone on a team that's saying, for the rest of us, as the leader of the team, lie. Well, even if that's what you're thinking in your head, like, you don't need to be admitting that to everyone that you needed a breather, a short break to get back in the game.
Especially when you just turn around and hand off the next play. Now, here's the thing. You can lie or just say something else at the podium, but it's more about the leadership aspect behind the scenes. The reaction behind the scenes, it doesn't matter what you say at the podium. Players are going to know. Because it was only really one play, the third down, and then he's back in the game the next series. And he's likely benched it very soon. If it's not because of this, and I know that, Steichen's saying it wasn't because of discipline. It's his play. I mean, he's completing 44% of his passes. He's thrown more. He's thrown 7 picks. I mean, again, he's not meeting the standard of what he's supposed to be doing for this offense. And then this happens. So lie. So you get to the podium, but you can lie to the media, and the I guess the public reaction is different, but the internal reaction is probably the same, where it's time to go to Flacco. Because you have a shot.
Because they're not going to believe it.
Well, not believe it. They already know.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
They saw it, or you almost.
They already know.
What did McClain tell us? You almost had to fake an injury, where Bobby Carper said, act injury. Like you're hurt on the play.
The team would have to really coddle him to be able to pull that off, because as a sideline reporter, you can go and ask and figure out the official injury designation of a player, and if there's no injury, there's just no designation in game. Mm-hmm. And so you can't say that he's hurt. You'd have to pretend he's actually hurt, tape his ankle, just for the sake of the visual aspect of it. That would be hard to pull off in the middle of a game, Chad. And if I'm Steichen, I'm just like, man, it's time to go to Flacco.
It's an extremely bad move and a bad look.
Yes.
That was the final straw to get him benched. His poor play leading up to that was what really got him benched.
Yes.
And that was just the last thing of, it's time.
Now,
and coupling that with losses when he's quarterbacking, you got to go back to Flacco.
I bet, I've been on some of these flights with teams, Chad, I bet the leaders, the captains, go up to him on the flight home. And that's when they're mentioning, Ryan Kelly's saying, like, hey, I told him, this does not meet the standard. You don't do that Monday morning. I bet that's on the flight home, And it's on the flight home because of what he said at the podium.
Right.
The other part of it, I found it interesting. Brian Flores, defensive coordinator of the Vikings, that's who they play this week. Of course, he's not playing. He's not starting. Said, I don't think it's a negative. Flores will say this. He's like, he just got a 300-pound defensive lineman. He's like, man, I thought he's a hell of a talent. I would just throw that out there because Brian Flores wants to be head coach again. And I wonder if he likes Anthony Richardson down the road. Just watch.
Well, if he is, he doesn't need to be a head coach.
Well, I mean, down the road.
I don't know how Anthony Richardson's going to help him at this point.
Well, we'll see how Anthony Richardson how he responds to this. This can actually be a really good thing for him. He needs time. I mean, think about what we were saying before the draft.
I think he's cooked.
Think about what we said before the draft.
What I said before the draft was he was so inconsistent that it's hard.
We just didn't know.
Yeah, Will Levis, him. I
know.
The one guy who was great in college was Bryce Young. But he was small. We knew that he was small. C.J. Stroud's another good example. He's the one who worked out.
Yeah, but I said yesterday, like the misses have changed so dramatically within a 10-year period on quarterbacks. The miss used to be Mariota Winston, and now it's Richardson and Will Levis. That's a huge difference in what we know about those players going into the draft. Chad, what I know about the NFL is it's built to be more or less a 500 league. Parity. Where it's not is on the game-to-game broadcast ability for replay or for getting a call right when it's automatically reviewed for a score. That happened in the Bucs Falcons game where Kyle Pitts is on a deep pass and he's lackadaisical going into the end zone. You have Antoine Winfield Jr. coming from behind, and this is a new angle from the sideline where it's clearly a fumble. The back foot, the ball's behind the back foot, which is not across the goal line. This is a fumble that was ruled a touchdown because the policy or lack thereof in place by the league, and it's up to really the networks, every game is not treated the same in terms of the available cameras on the field. And that was this game. It's a divisional matchup, but it's your normal 1 Eastern kickoff where Atlanta wins the game. They're now 2-0 and they sweep the season series against the Bucs. And Tampa's now 4-4. Atlanta's 5-3 overall. And this will, I think, ultimately determine a playoff spot. It could determine something for Todd Bowles or bonus money for a player. Who knows? But in the grand scheme of things, the stakes are too high for them not to have the same angles to go through and have the availability for New York to be able to determine, is this across the goal line or not? Maybe it's just still inconclusive, but what's clear as day is Sunday night football, Monday night football, Thursday night football. There are games scattered where there is every angle possible, all hands on deck. And even the 3:35 Eastern or 4:35 Eastern kickoffs, the Nance Romo game, Washington Commanders, Chicago Bears. Those games have even more cameras than they do the new camera. The NFL, if they wanted to, would have the power to say in these television contracts, you've got to put more into it, or at least have a minimum standard that is not available right now, team by team. And that, to me, is a huge advantage for certain teams over others. In this case, it's a huge advantage that Atlanta benefits from.
I don't understand also how the league doesn't do it on their own. It's not as if they don't have the money to put a mandated camera down the goal line on either side close, or their own cameras for their own replay all over these stadiums.
Yeah, but I don't know how the networks, the league doesn't have to do it. What they really have to do is just put it in the contract, the media policy.
Right.
And because it's the networks are paying billions for this.
Yeah, it's inexcusable that this would happen. My point is, this is still a league issue, and I get that they can, Trojan horse it in a TV contract for the TV networks to do it for them.
But either way,
they
it's there.
should do it. Like, there should be a mandated overhead camera somewhere, down the goal line camera, that every stadium has by league rule.
I agree.
That's operational, that you don't miss something like this.
I know.
So
and this is
I blame the league for it, not the television
photographer
networks.
or sideline camera that's again not available on game day by the network that has this game. And this is a huge pivotal game. You win the division.
But even if it wasn't, it's an NFL game. There's not that many.
Well, but you get a top 4 seed though, potentially out of this result.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm just saying.
It's an NFL game.
Even if
I
it
agree
was
with you.
1-6
Totally
versus
agree.
1-6, there's not that many games.
Totally agree.
There's no excuse for the amount of money being pumped into that league. They can't buy their own cameras and put them in there if the networks don't bring enough for whatever the 6th broadcast is for CBS that week. So
it'll be Titans Patriots.
Right. Oh, remember the one time they penalized officials by sending them from a primetime game to a Titans-Dolphins game.
He was so bad on the missed call that they penalized him by sending him to the worst worst game of the weekend. It was you're right, Titans-Dolphins. That was
to which we argued, how on earth are you not up in arms if you're the Titans organization about this? If you're one of 32 in the league.
That was when Dan Campbell was the interim coach for the Dolphins that week.
Ridiculous.
Awful.